Welcome to Being at Home with George during COVID. I'm excited to be here, especially in this holiday season. And as we do every week, I'd like to start off with creating the possibility of what? Of embracing whatever the pain or hurt, the frustration, the angst, the disappointment, and at the same time, generating hope. And part of that generating hope has to do with being able to see things differently. And so I know for a lot of people with the staying at home and then some of the activities being cut back because of the spread of COVID, that people may even feel that Christmas is canceled. But Christmas is not canceled, it's just postponed. I know at our house, I normally have my family over on Christmas Eve. It's not going to happen this year. It'll happen next year, but I want everyone to do what we need to do so that we can do it next year. And so I'm reminded of a lot of things that I've been able to accomplish, and most people accomplish, is when we're able to delay gratification and say, okay, so we're going to do this, and we're not going to be able to enjoy each other and be with each other in each other's company right now, but we can delay gratification for a little bit and still have joy in spite of it. So it's really making a shift from having the environment or having situations, people, places, and things generate our joy when we can actually generate our own joy. And in spite of the circumstances, we can experience joy. And so how is that possible? So for a lot of us, we're isolated physically, but we can connect spiritually. We can reach out to each other and we can offer people our love and our blessings. And so how do we do that? So for me, it's really simple. It's just calling a loved one or calling someone that we would normally be with and just tell them how much we love them and how much we care for them, and looking at them, seeing them with fresh eyes, seeing them with kind eyes, seeing them with loving eyes, so that we can focus on something that we really like about them or we value, or something that's uniquely them, and share that with them. I know that one of the 5 research habits that Jon Kabat-Zinn came out with, the happiness research, is to take 2 minutes to write a note to a friend, or you can Google, you can not Google, but you can text someone or just call them and talk to them on the phone. You can even FaceTime or Zoom them. Of course, a lot of us are probably exhausted with the Zoom thing, but there's something about being able to see somebody face to face and talk to them and be able to read their emotional expression, or at least be able to see somebody smile without a mask on. So we can definitely do that. And it's this idea of one way to express love or to be loving is to give our undivided attention to the person that we are being with, we are sharing time with. So if we're doing it on Zoom or FaceTime or even on the phone, can we just suspend all of our concerns about everything and just fully be engaged in the moment? Because there's a lot of joy in the moment, especially the joy of interacting and being fully present, because that's an act of love, to give our full attention to something or someone. And so we can practice this. We can really do these little things that keep us feeling connected spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and just really not let the fact that we're not getting together get in the way of doing what we can do and being present and listening. And even for ourselves, just being fully present for ourselves and focusing on what we have, what we can do, and actually generate maybe a gratitude list, that even though things are bad, there's some things that are really, really pretty good that we can focus on. And people might say, what's that? Well, my friend Jon Kabat-Zinn was fond of saying, especially when we used to work in a medical center at UMass Medical Center in the stress reduction clinic, he was fond of saying, as long as you're breathing, there's more right with you than what's wrong with you. And I know for some of us who have contracted COVID, or people that have COVID, that's one of the things that happens. They're not able to breathe. So when you're not able to breathe, or when you put your nose, you shut off your nose and your face and you can't breathe, and then when you're able to breathe, that feels amazing. And so this idea of just breathing and smiling and saying, as long as I'm breathing, there's more right with me than what's wrong with me. and that in this moment there's nothing wrong. And so a lot of joy comes in just being in the moment, just being present for whatever it is, even if it's pain or frustration, just by embracing it and saying, yes, this is here, and I'm going to breathe through it, and I'm going to get through it. Not only breathe through it, but get through it and just be with it, and then generate the hope. Because the interesting thing, I'm thinking of a teaching from Thich Nhat Hanh, and he said that we don't celebrate the non-toothache. So there's a time when you have a toothache, and it doesn't happen very often, and you say, oh man, I wish I didn't have this. And so we don't celebrate the non-toothache until we have the toothache. So we can actually celebrate the non-toothache. We can celebrate the non-whatever you want to put behind it. Right now, and everything's okay. We're alive, we're breathing. And for some of us, we may not be getting enough to eat. Or hopefully we're able to remedy that by being able to reach out to somebody or a friend, or go to a food pantry or food bank. And maybe part of it is to pray and to hope that Congress finds it within themselves to pass some relief to folks and not to be so stingy. This is the time not to be like Scrooge. It's the time to be more giving and more compassionate for ourselves and each other. So we definitely have to think about ways of staying connected, thinking about ways of focusing on how we generate not only hope, but joy now. Because in this moment, when we can be fully present and fully engaged and given fully of our hearts, we can feel that. And then prayer is always helpful. Meditation is always helpful. But I think we're meditating all the time. So the real question is, what are the thoughts we are holding in mind? What is our mind on? As Dr. Dre says, I have my mind on money, money on my mind. If I have my mind on joy, I have joy on my mind. If I have my mind on frustration, I have frustration on my mind. If I have anger, if I have my mind on anger, I have anger in my mind. And so we can choose that. So how about joy on our mind? And having our mind on joy. Compassion, love, on gratitude, empathy, feeling for others, and then seeing if we could do something about it. But the main thing is to stay connected with each other and just to reach out to others. Sometimes what I do is when I post one of these YouTube postings, I get on my iPhone and I might send out, I know it's kind of weird, but I send out maybe as many as 200 texts to people. I just copy and send them out. It takes me hours to do it sometimes, but I do it. And it's my way of just telling folks, some folks I haven't talked to in years or months or weeks, just letting them know I'm thinking about them, and just sending out those posts. And I get the responses I get back are amazing. How much thanks, I needed that. Thank you. These are really helpful. But I think a lot of it is the message is really helpful. But I believe it's the intention, the thought, the caring, the expression of care. That's really what opens us, connects us to the heart. So we talk about laughter is the way to connect two people, really, humor. But I also think love is that way, giving, thinking of others, especially when we don't feel like we have a lot to give. If we're able to just give, it just inspires me. When I do that, I feel so much better. And some people never respond to it, and that's not the issue. That's not the key. The key is my intention to be generous, my intention to remind people that I'm thinking of them. And so we can do that in many little ways. And sometimes, even if we don't send them anything, but we pray for them or we think about them, that has an energy in and of itself as well. And so I like to use the term, sometimes I have to forget myself to find myself. So I'm feeling a little bit down, or I'm feeling frustrated. I might even feel like I'd like to be in a particular meeting, or taking someone out to dinner, or being able to go to the movies. It's one of the things that I got denied. I bought an advance ticket for Wonder Woman in the cinema near my house, and they called me and said, we're shutting for 3 weeks. And so that's the way that I That's one of the ways I recover is I like going to the movies. And it's interesting is during this time I've learned how to do other things so that when I don't go to the movies, it's not such a sort of a disappointment to myself. So I learned how to do other things, like read and like I said, reach out to people. But for me, it's, preparing content for folks to help them get through this, even like this vehicle we're on now in terms of the YouTube, and just sharing my experience, strength, and hope with folks, and especially love, the compassion, the idea that, yeah, we have these masterpieces, but you got to work to let them express themselves. You can't just sit back and, like watching Survivor or some TV program where we're vicariously watching what's happening. We have to be engaged. We have to be involved. And each thought that we have is either making things better or worse. And so can we get to a point where we decide to focus on joy, focus on love and compassion, and send blessings to people instead of curses or criticism?